What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So stimulus talks could be coming back, and you're never going to guess the reason why. And it's really interesting what's happening right now because the stimulus talks could be coming back due to the fact that Democrats voted or pretty much were opposing a certain provision today. So I want to break down what's going on, what is currently being said, and what could be coming for the American people very soon. Now, all of this stuff that we're going to talk about today, it's due to the fact that we're seeing gas prices, they just keep rising every single day. It's expected to go up another 50%. There are multiple reports that are stating that gas prices will go up another 40 to 50% before they really level off. Well, with gas prices at $4.25, that means it's going to push us up over $6 per gallon. We also know utility bills are going through the roof, food prices are rising, and the American people, honestly, are just struggling to buy essentials, food, medications, pay their utility bills, and just pay for rent. It's a struggle right now for many people. And some are having to decide between, do I fill up my gas tank, or do I put $5 or $10 in, which might only get you 1 to 2 gallons, or do I go and buy the medication that I need? And many economists are now saying that the federal government should highly consider another stimulus package. But that's not really where the talks are going. At this time, they're trying to be very strategic as to, who should be getting these payments. Who should be getting some additional stimulus to not just help out the economy and make sure the economy stays stable, but make sure that the American people are stable as well. And I want to address what one economist said today. One economist from Pantheon Macroeconomics, he brought up the idea of providing gas vouchers to the American people who received the first round of stimulus payments back in 2020. And he said that those people that are really struggling, right? They could use these payments. And he said for the people that would right now are opposing any additional stimulus, Senator Joe Manchin, right, is for those people who say, well, it's going to add to inflation. What he says is that this would only provide about $50 billion, which would amount to just 0.2% of our GDP. So it really wouldn't do much. Now, when this came out, multiple economists jumped on this. One senior economist said that providing $2 to $3 per gallon for a gas voucher would cost about $200 to $300 per month per family, since most families put in about 100 gallons of gas per month. Now, another strategist said that this is a good idea because this would actually help people drive, help people get to work, help people go and buy groceries and just survive. But also said it would be a great idea to incentivize families to not use these cards, not use these vouchers. And if they still have money left over after multiple months, then we could ask the U.S. Treasury to give that family cash instead in return for their card. So it would incentivize people. Now, I bring this up for a couple reasons. Now, first thing, just understand, these are economists that are discussing this. This isn't from our senior lawmakers. So is this going to become law? No, not right now. Okay? Well, could it? Yes. And the reason I say this is because, back when the pandemic first started, who do you think came up with all those ideas? You think it was Nancy Pelosi that came up with all the ideas to, let's give the American people a stimulus check? No. All these ideas came from economists. Economists usually come up with multiple ways to get through, a situation, or to what would go on if we did this or that, right? This A-B scenario. And ultimately, lawmakers chose some of their solutions, and stimulus checks were one of them. Now, lawmakers could do the exact same thing here again, and many expect they will. They're going to listen to the economists because who else can they listen to, right? Do they listen to the president? Obviously not. If they did, things would be very different right now. But there is also some extremely important news that came off on the heels of that, okay? And this came out today as well. Now, I want to touch on this because this actually has a little bit to do with additional relief to the American people. Because what happened today is that the House of Representatives ultimately decided to punt on the vote for COVID relief in the next omnibus bill. That's a $1.5 trillion government funding bill that was supposed to, or has to pass by Friday at midnight. Now, the COVID relief was supposed to be part of the government funding bill. This was going to be $15.6 billion that was going to go to fund future pandemics, right? And this is something that many lawmakers say we absolutely needed. And Republicans said, okay, that is perfectly fine if we provide $15.6 billion to go to future pandemics. But they made it where there's a provision that they had to use existing funding. So what they did was they took $15.7 billion that was pretty much pulled from states' previous COVID funding in order to help offset these costs. They wanted 100% of this offset, and that's what they agreed on. So ultimately, this provision was rejected. The COVID relief was rejected because Democrats didn't want to pull unused funding from states and other expired programs, and so they decided, no, we're not going to do it. But here's the reason why this is so important, it's extremely important. According to a few lawmakers just a short while ago, not having the COVID funding included in the omnibus bill is actually going to make it harder to pass the COVID funding in general, specifically in the Senate. Remember, it has to have all 50 senators on board. Okay, all 50 Senate Democrats. Okay? Here's the other thing. Okay, what you need to keep in mind. All 50 Senate Democrats would be if they do it through a budget reconciliation. If they don't do a budget reconciliation and they just do a normal bill, it needs 60 votes, which means it has to have 10 Republicans on board. And right now, passing COVID relief, whether it's $15.6 billion or $5 billion, doesn't matter. Republicans want to offset that amount. How do they do that? With unspent funding. Now, here's the reason why this is extremely important. This right here, using a budget reconciliation, because we heard from Nancy Pelosi and many other senior lawmakers as well, that passing a standalone bill and using a budget reconciliation was not on the table. That was not something they were willing to even negotiate because they don't want to do a standalone bill. Even though they say it's very important, they will not do a standalone bill. They didn't do it for the child tax credit payments. Okay, they're not going to do it for COVID relief. At least that's according to the reports just this afternoon. Now, this could mean that we are going to see lawmakers try to include the COVID funding with the new and improved Building a Better America bill. Now, if you remember, this is the new version of the Build Back Better Act. And so as we speak, what they're actually discussing, according to a few aides, is that what can we do to put together a small bill and try to get lawmakers on board? Because do we need the COVID relief now? No. According to the White House, we have the funding needed to address COVID at least into the summer. But if we have a future pandemic or additional variants, which let's hope we don't, well, that's where this additional funding would come in. Okay? So, here's what this means. At this time, this means in times like these when costs are increasing, when the American people are experiencing a high level of uncertainty and unknowns, we could see additional stimulus, but through a budget reconciliation. Now, what is going to be included in that, we don't know. Okay, these are just initial thoughts and discussions. It's not like they're putting together a bill as we speak. No, they're trying to figure out a way to pass the COVID relief or that additional COVID funding, that $15.6 billion. Now, here's my thought, and this is why I think this is the craziest stimulus news ever that we've heard in a while, is because right now, Senator Joe Manchin, and he just said this just recently, is that the stimulus and the Build Back Better Act isn't even up on the priorities list. He's not even discussing that. But what happened today, pushing COVID relief back and having to go and vote on this, potentially this coming week, it can pass through the House. But the problem is once it gets to the Senate, what happens there. It's pretty much going to sit there and die. And so that's the issue, and that's one of the reasons why some are saying this could be an opportunity to provide more to the American people, because not only are we going to provide COVID relief, which is seen as essential, right, to many people, we could add in some other things, other provisions, possibly the child tax credit payments, possibly additional tax credits or incentives, and just more relief in general. So we'll see what comes out of all this stuff. But as I know, right now, there's still so much that's being discussed. I think the House and Senate, they're completely lost as to what they're even supposed to be doing. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But as always, as I know more, I promise, I'll come back on, share all latest news and updates. Just want to thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.